All right, so it is about 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get started. First, I just want to let everyone know that this session will be recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel within, I would say, 24 or 48 hours at the end of this session. I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Zoe Mills. I am the Adult Programming and Community Outreach Librarian at Tredyffrin Public Library. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for the first class or first installment of Introduction to Excel. I am planning to go over very basic information tonight, such as like terms that I'll use throughout this webinar series, as well as basic cell function. And then at the end of the session, I will go over a little assignment, loosely used term that I sent out to you all this morning, along with the PDF document of the presentation. It's just a basic guide on how to input data and then create a table from that data. So I will go through those steps with you live using Excel. I do want to make a quick note that this program or this webinar series is based off of Excel 2013, which is the version available on the computers at the library. If you have a newer Windows computer or you've downloaded a newer version of the Windows programs, it'll look a little bit different. The layout will be a little bit different, but the basic functions that I'll be going over will still be there. So the skills that you'll learn throughout this course or throughout this series, you can apply to newer versions of Excel. Please make use of the chat and Q&A function throughout the presentation and throughout, I guess, my guide on how to get started with Excel. I'm happy to answer any questions that come up along the way. Before I get started, I just have a quick announcement. All of us at the library have been proud and delighted to be able to serve the community in a multitude of ways throughout the pandemic. Virtual programs like this one, plus electronic materials, reference chat, curbside pickup, and more, have kept the community inspired, engaged, and connected. But the pandemic has also caused a loss of revenue at our libraries and has increased many costs. Now it is likely that cuts to services and programs may come. If you can give any amount, we are very grateful for your support. You can click the link in the chat to donate tonight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned earlier, I want to go over a few basic things about Excel as a program and to give you a few terms or a glossary of terms to reference back to. They're just terms or words that I'll use throughout this program series. So you'll often hear the terms workbook and worksheet whenever anyone is talking about Excel. And workbook references the entire Excel file. Worksheet, also known as spreadsheets, are kind of nestled within the workbook. So they're the actual pages that you'll be inputting your data and manipulating your data on. So the workbook itself is the entire Excel file, and the worksheet is what you are currently working on, the current spreadsheet. And you can have multiple worksheets within a workbook. And I can show you what that looks like when we play around with Excel together. Next are rows and columns. These refer to how your cells are aligned. Rows are horizontal and identified by numbers, and columns are vertical and identified by letters. Cells are a rectangle or block that is the intersection of a row and column. Any data that you want to enter into your worksheet must be placed in a cell. And cells are referred to by their cell address or by the letter and number of the column and row it is the intersection of. So A1 is the intersection of column A, row 1, or C10 is the intersection of column C, row 10. Cell range is a collection of cells that have been identified as a group based on a variety of criteria separated by a colon. So for example, A1 to C1 just highlights the cells between A1 and C1. So it would be A1, B1, and then C1. Operator are symbols or signs that indicate which calculation must be made. Function are formulas that are pre-built into Excel. So a common one that you would use throughout your experience in Excel would be auto sum or sum, which we'll be using, I believe I'll be using tonight to show you how to manipulate or enter in basic data. And then formula is a sequence inside a cell that is used to produce a value. So you can enter in your own formula as opposed to a pre-built one into Excel if you want your data to be manipulated a certain way. Next, I just wanted to provide some information about the interface itself, so what the program looks like when you open it up, and then how you will kind of access different parts of the program, and then also how to save and open. So the three major features of the interface includes the Excel start screen. So it might look a little bit different if you have a newer version of Excel, but this is the 2013 version. And this is the landing page when you open the program. On this start screen, you'll see the option to open workbooks that you have been recently working on, creating a blank workbook, or utilizing Microsoft's templates or themes. Next is the ribbon access and toolbar, which is this orange highlighted portion here. This is what a workbook looks like, and you can see that there are 3 worksheets on this particular image. But going to the highlighted item is your ribbon and quick access toolbar. This will contain multiple tabs and command groups that contain commands to help you enter in data, format the data, and then also kind of manipulate it or use formulas or functions. If you attended my Word seminar, it's very similar to the Word ribbon or the command groups that you would find in Word. Next is the backstage view, which is this third image here. And this is where you will save, open documents, print, etc. Oops, going a little fast. There we go. So I wanted to provide some information or background about the tabs that you'll find on the ribbon. The ribbon or the tab that the ribbon automatically opens up to is the Home tab. And this is helpful for most used commands like changing your font size, color, style, basic cell formatting like changing the size of the row height or the column width, and then also basic formulas that you would use in most Excel sheets like auto sum, like I mentioned. And there's also commands to help sort and filter your data, as well as formatting tables you may have created. Your Insert tab helps you insert objects like shapes, tables, or charts. We'll use the Insert tab later today when we play around with Excel. Page layout helps you adjust page orientation, margins, and size. The Formula tab will help you insert functions and pre-designed formulas. So the pre-designed formulas provided by Excel are actually pretty expansive. There are a lot of formulas, and it can become very overwhelming. During this series, I will only function on basic formulas, and then I can kind of help by providing resources. If you are looking for more information about more complex formulas, I can guide you to resources. The next tab is data. It's helpful for inserting and organizing data from an outside source. So if you are working with data that's been produced by a different program, you can upload data using this tab. The next tab is review, and this is helpful for editing features like spell check, comments, and more. And view is switching between different document views, very much like the view tab in Microsoft Word. So I wanted to go over some cell basics. I did mention how the cells are defined and what rows and columns look like, but I wanted to provide a little bit more information. So whenever you work with Excel, you'll enter information or content or data into cells. Cells are the basic building blocks of a worksheet. You'll need to learn the basics of cells and cell content to calculate, analyze, and organize data in Excel. To input content or data, you need to select a cell. So you just simply left click on the cell that you want to insert the data. A green border will appear around the selected cell, and it will remain selected until you move to another cell. So you can see here that cell B3 has been selected. So you'll see that the column is highlighted as well as the row, and then the cell name, B3, will be in the upper left-hand corner, just beside the formula bar. To select a cell range, you will click, hold, and drag the mouse until all of the adjoining cells you want to select are highlighted. Release the mouse to select the desired cell range. The cells will remain selected until you click another cell in the worksheet. So you can see here, A1 through B3 have been selected. So this includes the cells A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, and B3. Selecting a cell range is helpful for creating tables, which we'll do a little bit later. Any information you enter into a spreadsheet will be stored in a cell. Each cell can contain different types of content, including text, formatting, formulas, and functions. So text can just be something as simple as letters, numbers, or dates. Formatting attributes change the way that letters, numbers, and dates are displayed. So you can tell Excel that you want a specific cell or a specific row or column to appear as percentages, which could be just a simple decimal or an actual percentage. And you can even change a cell's background color, which I'll show you in a little bit what that looks like. You can also change the dates on how they appear, change how currency or money appears if you are working with money in Excel. Formula and function cells can contain formulas and functions that calculate cell values. For example, sum B2 to B8 adds the value of each cell in the range B2 to B8 and displays the total cell, the total in cell B9. So it adds every single piece of data between B2 and B8 and then displays the total sum in B9. Again, to add content to a cell, you left click a cell to select it. The green border will appear. And then you type in to the selected cell, then press enter on your keyboard. The content will appear in the cell and the formula bar as you type. So the cell is here and the formula bar is always up top, just above the label of your columns. You can also input and edit cell content in the formula bar. It's easiest to edit cell content in the formula bar. If you were just to click once on a cell to edit maybe a spelling or grammar error, if you click once and start typing, it'll replace everything you've typed in the cell. So you want to make sure that if you are changing or editing something in a cell, you want to edit it in the formula bar so that your content isn't erased completely. Editing font styles is very similar to Word. Select the cells with the data you would like to edit and utilize the font and alignment command groups found on the Home tab. Within the Styles and Cells command group on the Home tab, you can adjust titles and headings, color coding, formatting as a table, row height, and column width. And the best way to figure out what each feature does is to play around and select different styles. Like I mentioned, I did email, if you pre-registered for this program, I did email out a assignment in quotation marks. You can play around with that assignment as a guide to just see what it's like to edit some titles, headings, color coding, or even insert a table instead of building your own. We'll be adding borders with our assignment today to create our own table. This is the easiest way to as a beginner to create a table in Excel. So you can create it by adding borders around your data. So you would insert your data and then you would create the table around it. So to add borders, you have to highlight all of the data you've inserted into cells. Click the borders logo, logo or command found in the font command group. It looks like a little quad it'll have a down arrow. And when you click that arrow, you'll get a list of options. Next, you'll select all borders, which is right here, to add all borders around your cells that have been highlighted. You can edit the line style and line color by clicking more borders. So if you want a thicker border or a different color, you can edit that in more borders. Next is organizing data. When you input data, you might want to reorganize alphabetically or chronologically. Excel has a handy feature that allows you to reorganize your data. So to reorganize, you select the entirety of the data you'd like to reorganize by clicking and dragging. Click the Data tab on the ribbon. Click Sort command in the Sort and Filter command group. Select which column you would like to sort by and the order in which you would like to sort. So you can see here, I have a list here of actors and I'm sorting by column A based on A to Z. So I'm reorganizing them alphabetically. When you click OK, it'll organize all of your lists that have been highlighted alphabetically. Inserting charts and graphs can be helpful if you want to visualize data that you've input into Excel. So in order to insert a chart, you have to have a table already built in, and it has to, if you can recall back to your elementary math classes, you need to have an X and Y axis. So you need at least two bits of information to create a table, or I'm sorry, a chart. So you need to have your X column and your Y column. So your X column will most likely be the items that you've counted or you are describing. And then your Y column will be the count. So you can see here in this image, if it's big enough for you to see, I have counted the types of tea that I have. So I started with Earl Grey, I have 10, black tea, I have 5. So the types of tea will be my x-axis and my count will be my y-axis. So once you've built in your table, you're going to highlight the entire table, including the title and the labels. You'll move over to the Insert tab on the ribbon, click the pie graph picture in the charts command group, and then you can select the first TD option, sorry. Wow, I can't speak tonight, I'm so sorry. 2D option from the drop-down menu, and this is what will appear. And then you can click anywhere on the inserted chart to edit the title, colors, and more. So you can see that I've added the title, types of tea, and then I've also edited the color just based on kind of like the color of the tea itself. There are other different charts you can insert, like pie charts, simple like line graphs, as well as bar graphs or a pivot chart. I wanted to provide some tips and tricks to keep in mind while working in Excel. So you can use the tab key on your keyboard to move over a column. So if you are clicked into a cell, if you hit the tab key on your keyboard, it'll move to the right a column. You can use the enter key on the keyboard to move down a row or to complete a formula or function that you've created. Once you hit the enter key, it'll total everything or complete the function. You can also use the arrow keys to navigate across cells as long as you are not working within a function or formula. If for some reason Excel won't let you navigate using your arrow keys or it won't let you click on another cell, just simply hit the escape button. The reason why it might not let you move to another cell is it might think that you're in the middle of a function or formula and it wants you to complete it. If you hit escape, it'll escape out of that formula or function for you. When you click on a cell, it will automatically replace existing data when you start typing. A simple undo or Control plus Z will fix this mistake. Double-click a cell to edit the text that is already in the cell, or as I mentioned earlier, I recommend editing in the function bar so that you won't replace the existing data automatically. If you are using multiple sheets within one document, you can move between them with a simple click on your keyboard. If you click Control plus page up or page down, this will let you move between sheets within one workbook. And then you can use the spell check in the review tab by checking or to check your spelling. Unlike Word, Excel does not automatically catch spelling errors. So I definitely recommend utilizing this option. It'll help you catch any errors that might go undetected. All right, before I open up Excel on my screen share, do we have any questions about anything that I've covered so far? All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you Excel in action. And if you have any questions while I do this, feel free to pop them into the chat or the Q&A. What I'll do is I will open up a blank workbook and then kind of go through the counting Skittles practice I sent everyone so that you can see what it looks like in action. Feel free to open up Excel if you are working on a computer and work along with me. I don't have any Skittles with me tonight, unfortunately, so I'm just going to make up random numbers. Feel free to do the same thing, but if you do need inspiration, you can use any item in your house. You can count how many tea bags you have, if you have a variety of tea, pens, colored pens or anything like that. You can find data pretty much anywhere. But just to note, I am working on a Mac computer. So if you are using a Windows or a PC, it'll look a little bit different. So as I mentioned, the presentation that I presented on is based off of 2013, but I have the most recent version of Excel for Macs. So like I mentioned, things will be it'll look a little bit different, but the basic functions are still there. So this is what the backstage view looks like, or the starting page looks like for my version of Excel. You can see that there are a lot of different templates that I can choose from, like budgeting, to-do lists, etc. And there are so many more that are available. But for tonight, I'm just going to open a blank workbook, and it should be back. You should be able to see it. Let me just make it a little bit bigger for you. Okay, so just to kind of orientate you with Excel, I mentioned columns are labeled by letters. So this is the B column, A column, and rows are labeled by numbers. This is the formula bar here. So if I were to type data into A1, you can see the cell address here, A1, and then in the formula bar, you can see the data itself. But as I mentioned, if you just click once and say I meant to type in something else instead of data, you can just start typing right away and it'll automatically replace it. But if you wanted to edit anything that you wrote, I recommend just doing it in the formula bar as so. And then, as I mentioned, you can hit tab You'll move over right a column, and if you hit enter or return, it'll move down a row. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the practice I sent everyone. So step one is to open Microsoft Excel, which we've done. Next is we have to create a table for our Skittle colors. In cell A1, you will have to type in the title for your table or chart. So I'm just going to type in Skittle colors. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you so you can hopefully see. In cell A2, type in heading for colors. So I'm just going to type in colors. In cell B2, type in the heading for color counts. In cells A3 through A7, type in the possible colors that you can find in a bag of Skittles. I'm not sure there's red, yellow, green, purple, red, yellow, green, purple. I am missing a color. Orange. Yes, okay. So we have red, yellow, green, purple, and orange. Next, if I had a bag of Skittles, I would count each, I would empty the bag out, sort them based on their color, and then count each color or each Skittle based on their corresponding color. So for this, I'm just going to make up random numbers. So let's say there's 6 red Skittles, there are 9 yellow Skittles, there are 3 green Skittles, 5 purple, and 2 orange. So you would just go down, you can hit enter or use your arrow keys as you type to enter in your Skittle count. So now I want to organize my data numerically from smallest to largest. You highlight the data by clicking cell A3 and dragging to B7 so that it's containing all of the data that I want to organize. So you want to make sure that you select all axes or all columns of your table so that when you organize your counts based on number from smallest to largest, the corresponding colors will move along with it. So once you've selected A3 to B7, we're going to go over to the sort column, sort command found in the sort and filter command group within the data tab. So there is a shortcut here on your home, but let's go over to the data tab to explore that a little bit. You can easily click the alphabetical or reverse alphabetical if you wanted to do it that way. But since we're going to organize numerically, we're going to click sort. And you can see here all of the column selection is set to blank. So we're going to select the column that we want to organize by, which will be counts. And it's automatically set to smallest to largest for us. But if we wanted to, we could do largest to smallest, or you can create a custom order. So once we have column counts, sort on values based smallest to largest, we're going to click OK. And you can see that our table has now been kind of reorganized. So orange has the smallest count with 2, followed by green with 3, purple with 5, red with 6, and yellow with 9. So now we are going to insert a pie chart to represent our table. We have to highlight the entire table, starting with cell A3 through to B7. We'll go to the Insert tab, and then we will navigate to the charts. And you can see here on my version of Excel, they are represented by little icons of the charts themselves. So go ahead and click the pie chart. And we have different options. We have a 3D, 2D, and various versions of 2D. But we're just going to pick the first option within the 2D, and it drops it in there for you. So you can see, I'm just going to drag it a little bit closer to the table. But you can see here, our x-axis has orange, green, purple, red, and yellow, and our y-axis is represented by the pie pieces themselves. We're going to want to format the pie chart so that it's a little bit easier for everyone to read. So we're just going to change our chart title to Skittle Colors. Oops. And then I want to format the pie pieces based on the actual colors of the Skittles themselves. So we'll do that by clicking each individual. It might be a little bit different on PC now that I'm thinking about it, but we'll click on each section of the graph. So the directions that I have provided for you are based on Microsoft versions of Excel. I don't have the little paint can. I have to edit my sections using this. When you double click an item in Excel, especially a chart, this will pop up, this little menu will pop up, and this is where I can change the fill color. So I can see here the orange is represented as blue, but I would like orange to be represented by orange. So when you change the paint can, it'll change here. It looks like red is represented by yellow. I want red to be represented by red. Gray represents purple, and I would like, I think that's more blue than purple. But you can change as you move along so that the colors themselves represent each other. This is yellow, I believe. No, this is orange. I misread the chart. All right. So now I have changed the colors to represent the actual colors themselves. All right, so that is inserting and editing a pie chart into your Excel sheet based on a table that you've created. And now what I want to do is I want to edit the table so that it looks a little bit better. It's a little bit more organized. We'll add some borders and we will change the font a little bit. So first what I want to do is I want to merge and center these two cells, or A1 and B1, where Skittle Colors is, or the title of our data. So you will click and drag to highlight B1 and A1, or A1 and B1. And then in the command group, next to the alignment, you'll see an option for merge and center. So what this does is it merges more than one cell into one large cell and then centers the data that has been inserted in all of the cells, or at least one of the cells. So you can see here, Skittle Colors was inserted in A1, and now the two cells have joined together and Skittle Colors is in the middle. We're gonna bold, make the title bold. So I'm just going to click on the cell that it's in and click the bold command. Then you can see that it's bolded the title. And then I'm also going to underline it. Now I'm going to add borders around the table. So I'm going to highlight A1 through to B7. And then we are going to add borders. So a shortcut is here. I mentioned it's that quad icon. If we click the down arrow, we'll get that long list of options. If we click all borders, you can see that it has inserted a black border around all of the cells. I might make that a little bit bolder. So I'm going to highlight the table again, select borders, and then click more borders. And here you can change the style of the line if you wanted it to be dotted or thicker. And then you can also change the color. Let's choose green. And then click OK. And you should be able to see that it is now green. Not sure why. It's doing that. And then you will select all borders and then click OK. So now you can see that my lines are thick and green. And that is the end of that practice. You have now entered, formatted, and organized raw data into Excel. So it's actually, like I mentioned, you can find data anywhere. So I recommend just kind of playing around, entering data, see how you can organize it, and see what sort of charts you can insert. That's the best practice that you could do for getting used to or comfortable with Excel. It is very overwhelming. There are still parts of Excel that I have not explored, and I will agree it is very scary and very daunting. But take it one step at a time, just play around. Especially if you are nervous using actual data, like if you have to use Excel for work and you are nervous using data from work, you can play around with Excel at home. You can count how many tea bags you have, toys your animal, your pets have, or anything like that, to create data for yourself. And then you can play around with inserting it, creating tables, and then creating charts. Are there any questions about the practice that I went over or anything that I covered in this session tonight? And then here's just another example of what the Skittles practice could look like, just because your bag or Skittle bags are different every time. So you'll get a different chart and different table every time. Feel free to pop in any questions you might have. I did want to provide contact information for myself as well as the libraries. So our emails for both Tredyffrin Public Library and Paoli Library are listed, as well as our numbers and our shared website. You can always email me in between the iterations of this webinar series, or any point if you are working with Excel and you had a question, feel free to email me. If you want more assistance, you can schedule a one-on-one tech session by clicking this link provided in the PDF presentation that I emailed everyone. Within the session, it is tailored specifically to your needs. So if you wanted more one-on-one help, you can feel free to schedule a session. They are completely free and they are an hour long. If not, you can always, like I mentioned, you can always email me or give me a call if you have any questions about Excel or about this presentation series.